Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Darian Jones. I'm the Caregiver Education and Digital Specialist at Care Partners. We're back today for another Hot Topic Live segment. Real quick, I wanted to let you guys know that we're still offering Common Ground support groups twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we're having one this afternoon at 2 p.m. So be sure to visit our website for more information on that. As well, we'd love to hear from you guys, whatever you guys are doing to stay busy during this time. And this week, the theme is healthy brain, healthy body, or healthy body, healthy brain. And so we're encouraging everyone to think about the food that they're putting in their bodies and nutrition and just staying active. And so if you guys have any of your favorite recipes you'd like to share with us, we'd love to hear from you guys. You can email us at info@carepartnerstexas.org. Today we have a very special guest, a great topic. We're going to be talking to a senior living advisor, and he's going to tell us all about what they do and how they can help you. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Troy. Hi, Troy. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, good morning, Darian. I'm well. And you?
I'm great. Thank you for joining us. It's a really important topic, a really great topic. But first, will you just tell us a little about yourself and your background?
Certainly. Thank you for having me this morning and allowing me to be a part of this. Again, my name is Troy Williams. You can kind of see it on the screen there. I've been in the Northwest Houston area for 26 years now. So have spent about 28 years or so in the electronics manufacturing and aftermarket service. Aftermarket service is just a fancy term for customer service or repair of electronics products, primarily laptops and mobile devices. And so I'd spent about a year in between jobs, and it was then that I had set a couple of personal goals. One was I wanted to be closer and to work with folks or families that were in urgent or critical need. And I wanted to do that in my local community where I lived. I really began to, I think, thrive or enjoy the rebuilding of my professional network as I interacted and met with and networked with small businesses in the Northwest Houston area, primarily Tomball, but which is where I live. And so as far as Oasis Senior Advisors, which is my company, which is a national franchise, I'll describe that in a minute. I've been doing that now. I'm in month 9. So I'm not been in the industry very long, but you learn so much so quickly early on that you kind of feel like you become somewhat of an expert, but it's certainly a growing experience in that sense. Oasis Senior Advisors is a national franchise, about 90 owners nationwide. And right now I'm the only owner in the Houston area. But it fulfills those two personal goals that I mentioned. I get to work with families face to face. Well, when we're not in the COVID-19 lockdown situation, but typically I get to work with families face to face. So I really get to know them, understand what the needs are they have, or maybe their senior loved one, and help them really do something what I call put a puzzle together. They don't really know what the puzzle of senior living or senior care looks like based on their particular circumstances and needs, because everyone's puzzle will look differently. And I help them put that puzzle together. The core of what I do is I really help them find the right senior living solution, if that is the decision. We come to a point where we say, yeah, or agree that a senior living solution like assisted living, maybe memory care, or even independent living is the solution. Then I do all that legwork for them. I find based on their needs, that can be care needs, based on their financial, be able to budget for it and pay for it, based on where they want to be. Geographically, it's almost like a bit of a real estate aspect in that sense. And then what's their personality like? What have they enjoyed doing? What have been their hobbies and activities? What's their personality like? Are they a people person? They like to be alone more. They like to engage. I mean, there's just a host of those types of things. And I bring all that together and really identify maybe top 3 to 5 locations and communities. And again, outside of this COVID-19 issue, I would be there with them on tours, help them and introduce them to these communities, let them kind of get to know them better, build some confidence in them, and then follow up with them later should they move there. Sometimes it doesn't end up that way. Sometimes it ends up that maybe all they need is help in the home, and so I can introduce them to agencies and companies in the area that do in-home care. Maybe a loved one really is in need of hospice. They meet certain criteria, and I can introduce them, to those resources as well. So, part of helping me put that puzzle together with them, I don't do it for them. It's really more of a cooperative exercise. Is I have a host of expert resources in my network or around me where we can put that puzzle together. A really good example, and it's probably the top question that anyone has about senior living or senior care is how do I pay for it? Um, we can talk bells and whistles and location all day long. But if ultimately you can't afford those bells and whistles, then we need to find something that still suits the care needs, meets those, but also is affordable. And I really enjoy going through and opening up, some of the eyes on with clients about what other funding sources are available. But it's one of my favorite things. But one of my favorite third party or expert resources really are movers or move coordinators, because they have a really cool service they offer to people. But that's just one of several. The senior living advisor, it's you can do this work that I do without any sort of certification or licensure. There's no licensing required for it. There are a couple of certifications that do come in handy, and I think bring some credibility to the role and to the families that I serve. And that's the Certified Senior Advisor, CSA. I don't yet have mine. In fact, I test next Wednesday, so wish me luck on that. But it is a way to kind of personally vet and learn my expertise. And there are several in the Houston area that I know that are CSA certified already. And so they've been trained, and they continue to learn about, well, what does it mean to engage with a family and with a senior in a compassionate way, an active listening way, to really understand again what their needs and desires, their cultural desires and backgrounds, their financial situations, their health situations, in such a way that again we're empathetic. We're usually people that really have a strong desire to help them and solve a problem that they have in this case. And at the same time, we operate a business when we do that. But and so that's part of the vetting process, is being a CSA. But ultimately, I got into this again for those two personal goals, and Oasis has really helped me do that almost perfectly, really. And it couldn't be really going any better for me than I had planned. Some folks ask me frequently, so you're like a place for mom. And I won't necessarily always give a shout out to my competitors, but they do have a really a place and a fit in the model. But one of the main differences that I like to remind clients of and others is we talk about the service that I offer is it's personalized. You get me, you get a face, you get Troy as a personality, and I'm there from the beginning, as early as you bring me in, and I'm there through what we call placement, which is the move in, and then there's follow up. I need to know how things are going. Did we hit the bullseye on the target? With regards to a particular community, and those communities can be anything from assisted living, as I mentioned earlier, which take on multiple forms. There's really kind of two primary formats for assisted living, and that's residential format, which is becoming more and more popular. There's also the apartment style, which is the more typical style that people think of. And then there's also memory care. That's a unique aspect of care for assisted living. related to the disease or diseases of memory impairment. And then there's also independent living, which is simply just downsizing. If I'm tired of home ownership and home upkeep and property upkeep, and I want to downsize and be a little free of some of those responsibilities, then independent living may be the right solution for someone. But that's really kind of what I do and how I do it. Again, very personalized, very face to face, which is why I do it. Love being with families, and I enjoy the communities immensely. Any questions out there that we have yet, Darian, that you can see?
Let me take a look. Right now, we don't have any comments. So any of you out there who do have questions for a senior advisor or anything related to that, we would love to hear from you. So be sure to type those in the comments below. While we're waiting for that, I was wondering, is there anything that a senior advisor can do that most people may not know about?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. So a lot of one of the interesting learnings for me in the last 9 months, and it's very repetitive, is families don't know about the service until they have a need for the service, and you find out that many of them really haven't planned in advance for it. So there's kind of two aspects to that. The first is, as an advisor, it's not just about can we find the right assisted living community, right? The one with the best food and the best activities, and although that's the goal for the individual, behind the scenes, there are consultations taking place. There are assessments taking place, of the senior or seniors. Maybe it's a couple, based on their needs. The service I offer is free to families. There are those who charge for it, but I don't. I help families with their, put them in touch with the right financial experts. I work with discharge planners, case managers, social workers at hospitals, skilled nursing facilities. So, wherever my client is, that's where I'll be. Every solution is unique because they come with options based on an individual's what we call acuity. That's their ability to live on their own successfully and safely, mixing that with and blending that with their finances, how to bring up new solutions of financing. One of the best kept secrets in the industry are the VA pension benefits to help low income families pay for assisted living, whether that's in their home or in a community. And I can educate families on kind of the key differences between Medicaid and Medicare resources, and then provide more detailed experts to help them. Most seniors understand Medicare pretty well because they're forced to. But Medicaid is really, an unknown thing until you have to get into it, obviously. And so I have resources at my fingertips. So a lot of work behind the scenes, to really find that ultimate solution. So interacting with a lot of different folks, to come up with that right box top for the puzzle. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so we talk a lot about, you talk a lot about the senior living, but there are other areas that senior advisors can help in. You kind of, like you said, piece together the puzzle and really personalize the care.
Mm-hmm.
So what is some of the different areas that you guys can help advise in?
So that's a good question. The certification CSA can be applied to almost any function where there's an interaction with a senior or a senior's family. And so, for example, many elder law attorneys, I interface with them and provide their resources that I have in my toolkit, if you will, that I can share with families. They may have a certification of CSA because they recognize the need for a broad understanding and application, ethical application as well, of how they're going to deal and relate to their clients. It's obvious in the senior placement environment or part of the industry, having a CSA is a very common certification. But financial planners, would have, could it be CSA certified? I know a few that are. And so there's a host of those that can be uh, uh, labeled or certified, excuse me, as a certified senior advisor. Really at the heart of what I do, and what I think a really good or trustworthy senior advisor would do is, first of all, understand what the needs are and the concerns are of their client. Um, because we don't want to assume a solution without understanding those. And so, one thing is we understand what we call our products. We have a pretty clear understanding of the communities that are available and are eventually a fit. We interact and engage quite frequently with the medical industry. That would be primarily nursing homes or skilled nursing facilities that are short-term rehab, for example, and even hospitals, specifically when it comes to those who are coordinating someone's care and discharge from a medical environment or a clinical environment. And so working with them on what are the details of the next steps in the care plan. So for example, if someone is discharging from a hospital but can't live safely at home anymore, maybe without either modifications to the home, which we can, provide those resources or introduce those resources to families, to how to modify the home to be safer, um, that, or can they bring a home health agency in to the home for maybe an hour to 2 hours a day, and that's all they need to help with things like light housekeeping or cooking, laundry, or maybe even help with mobility and other activities of daily living, eating, bathing, dressing, grooming, and so on. And so, we really, a really good advisor wants to understand the problem first, or problems, and only then will they be able to offer up advice as well as resources to swiftly and completely solve a particular family's problem.
Great. And then, so there's a lot when it comes to senior care and kind of navigating that world. But you guys kind of have a little touch in every area. So it seems that you guys can kind of be like matchmakers almost, and kind of cut through some of the red tape to really personalize that care for someone. Is that what you'd say?
Absolutely, it is. That's a great way to look at it. I haven't thought of that. So I'll ask you later, make sure you haven't copyrighted that, but I'll look at being a matchmaker. I haven't thought of that. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's so many, when I was going through training, our trainer would say every family is different. And there's an obvious aspect to that. Anyone would say and agree with that statement, but you don't realize how different every family and situation can be until you're in those situations. And there are some common threads, across all families, I think, but there are probably more uniquenesses and exceptions than there are commons to them. And so, with aspects understanding, the medical needs, and that are healthcare needs in some. So it can be, do they still need to be outside taking dialysis treatments? Do they have dementia or some other memory impairment, or have Alzheimer's, Parkinson's? And so, knowing those circumstances and those needs really help any good senior living advisor, or senior advisor for that matter, really tailor a solution for that particular individual or family. I mentioned some other factors that come into play in that, and that can be, financial as well. And so, because again, when we don't want a solution that's, unaffordable, or is maybe only affordable in the short term. And even then, maybe that is the solution. Maybe it is really more of a short-term solution that maybe someone, instead of going, let's say, for example, to a skilled nursing facility after a hospital stay, and for additional rehabilitation, um, they can conduct or experience that type of rehab in assisted living or at home. having someone come in, a home health agency come in and take care of that, 3 to 5 days a week, hour per day, that sort of thing, and really get that type of care or service in a much more comfortable environment than in a more clinical environment. Again, you're right. Understanding those details to match up just the right solution, which may or may not include, a whole new living solution for an individual or for a couple.
That's great. And then, so it's really that you guys are really good at just senior advisors can. I lost my train of thought. But we're going to wrap it up in just a few minutes. So I was going to ask if you had any last minute caregiving advice for anyone who's watching.
Well, that's a good question because, again, about, I'd say 80%, maybe a bit more of my clients, haven't planned for long-term care. And that's not unusual. It really isn't. I think there's a human nature aspect to not wanting to age, and not recognizing or acknowledging, that eventually, the statistics say that about 70% of individuals that are 65 or older need some sort of care, whether that's long-term or not. And that's a pretty big number, right? It doesn't mean you're going to be in a nursing home or 70% is going to be in assisted living. It just means that someone's going to need some care. So the need is out there. And so my recommendation to families right now, even if someone is not a senior in the family, is be prepared. And there are a number of ways to be prepared more financially. There's kind of two aspects to being prepared. One is financial, and there's a number of ways to fund long-term care or be prepared for it. And I'll hit a few of those in just a minute, let's say. But the other is to be prepared health-wise. I sit through training and presentations at HCA Tomball when we were allowing it before the COVID thing has happened, with different doctors presenting, different aspects of really how can you take better care of yourself, mainly from a diet and exercise perspectives, related to cardiovascular health, related to the health of the mind, and then just general body health, movement. And all three of them, I promise, about 90% of the material intersected. Fruits and vegetables, juices, reduced sugars, minimum salt. I mean, there's a host of those things that are so common across some of the chronic illnesses that we experience, many of us, and not all, but many of us experience, that are preventable, because the saying goes that good genes don't overcome bad habits. You can have great genetics and have poor habits and still require long-term care in the future related to those bad habits. So there's a habit of health, I think, that's extremely important. And some of that just starts with moving. Get moving. And that can be exercise, light exercise, walking. It doesn't have to be complicated. And then the other is financial. Really, there's kind of two main ways to pay. One is either through your assets, the things that you save, the money you save. That can come from pensions. It can come from Social Security. It can come from money you have in your savings or investments, IRAs, that sort of thing. And just account for it. Know that it's going to occur and you're going to need those funds. So have that part of your plan as your financial plan. And the other is through asset protection type of vehicles. And those are primarily insurance based. How do you protect what you've saved? By paying for insurance up front, long-term care insurance, or even converting life insurance for long-term care. And so those are the two aspects of advice that I would give most families or individuals. And it's never too late to start on either. It isn't. Even if you're 75 or 80, you can still eat healthy, begin those and change those habits. You can still learn to manage your finances, more appropriately, given a timeline that you're working on. And so that's where I would land with most families.
Thank you so much for all those great tips. And I remembered what I was going to say. senior advisors are really great at just showing all the options out there. So if you have questions, contacting a senior advisor could be really helpful. So I wanted to put up Troy's contact information on the screen. So anyone at home watching who has more questions, you can contact him here. His email's up on there, and then the phone number as well. Thank you so much, Troy, for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time.
You're welcome. One thing I might add, if I could, Darian, is my email address is actually twilliams@yourOasisAdvisor.com.
Oh, let me get that fixed really quick.
Sure. And so otherwise, the phone number is right.
Got it. Let me fix that email address really quick and make sure we get it up there correct.
Thanks. Yeah.
You said it was Oasis?
Yeah, Your Oasis Advisor.
Your Oasis Advisor. Got it.
Yeah, I get it wrong myself. It's such a long email address.
There we go. I think that is the correct one. So anyone who has some questions or wants to contact Troy, that is the correct address up on the screen now.
That's it.
Again, thank you. And we are going to sign off for now, but we really appreciate all of you guys tuning in at home. And for all of those who watch this later, thank you guys for tuning in. With that, we're going to say goodbye, but have a great rest of your day. Thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.